Alright, hey everybody. I'm Justin. My IGN is RiceeHero on TFT. And last season I peaked at GM. Right now I'm still climbing. And me and Tommy here are here to do a podcast.
Hey there, I'm Tommy. I go by TLE61 in game. And last season I've been Master 300 LP. And right now I'm in the top 500 as of now with Diamond 4 as my rank.
Alright, so this is going to be our first podcast, going to be the patch 10.19 Midpatch podcast. So first off, we're going to talk about the transition from set 3 to set 4. So first off, Tommy, what are your thoughts for on galaxies being removed in exchange for Chosen so far?
Yeah, so I really think that the overall theme of each galaxy was pretty much separated into two buckets, whether it was a high econ galaxy like Treasure Trove or one that limited your economy. And I really think that Chosen balances this out because it doesn't necessarily limit you, but it is the trade-off of paying a little more gold for a 3-star unit versus really just being able to spike and buy that one key piece that might enhance your synergies by the perfect amount.
Yeah, for what I was thinking was that galaxies, right? I remember I was watching Scar and he was saying how galaxies they wanted to in a sense make every single game different, right? And I think they made a really good job in set 4 because they still kind of achieved that way of making every single game different, right? With a chosen unit, but it's like each chosen unit is random. But a lot of people didn't like a lot of the galaxies, so I think personally they did a pretty good job on making a fresh new meta and making everything seem what's the word more just I think it's just good. They just did a good job transitioning from set 3 to set 4. You think so too?
Actually, I know our playstyles differ, so I'm actually in the stance that Chosen has not really made too much of a variance in the games.
Yeah.
Personally, I've seen Milk in my games forcing brawlers 20 out of 20 times. And then
Yeah.
I've also seen my own games. I've been able to force the Vanguard Mystic Ari comp for a lot of the games consistently. And I also think that having Chosen, obviously we've seen way more 3-star 4 costs. I don't know if it's exactly healthy for the game, but since the meta is pretty underdeveloped right now, I'd like to see how it develops past stage 5.
Yeah, I mean, what are your thoughts on so you're saying that it's easy to hard force comps, or would you say playing flexible is better? Because from what I'm doing, I guess I've been playing flex as of late, but I've also tried just hard forcing, but it's sometimes some comps they just require that one chosen unit, right? So it's hard to force some comps while others it's easier to force, right?
Yeah, and I really think that's a testament to which comps will be top tier this set, because as we've seen with Riven, Ashe, and Ahri based comps, they all can really play around 4 or 5 chosens depending on which forecast they use. I think that's really just the ideal way that a comp will be successful, is being able to rely on any chosen to bolster it rather than being reliant on one specific trait on one specific chosen.
That's right. All right. Do you want to talk a little more about 3-stars? Because actually, I could talk about a little more too. Because 3-stars, right? Because of Chosen, they're all once you pick it up, it starts as a 2-star unit. So it basically makes every single unit able to be 3-star a lot faster. And also with the new shop changes, which we'll go over a little faster, that also makes 3-stars a lot more faster. Do you think it's healthy for the game? Because I know Mordog said he was concerned about having way too many 3-stars as well.
Personally, I think it's a pretty good change because I feel like 3-stars overall were pretty neglected up until set 3. And they are a part of the game, right? It's not just, it doesn't just stop at 2 stars, right? So I think it's pretty great to have some variety in the star level of units that can carry. And I think that right now, from what I've seen, there are 2 competing schools of thought in terms of win conditions, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of players opt to slow roll on level 8 for their forecast 3-star. But then other players try to go for a more PIBA style route of pushing 9 and inserting as many 2-star legendaries. So I think that's actually really interesting to see in terms of the variety of outs that people can go for. And I hope that it stays that way and that one or the other isn't optimized to a point where it pushes the other out of favor.
Got it. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. All right. Let's go to the next topic then, systems changes. So the first one up is carousel changes. So basically with the carousel changes, they're a lot more consistent, a lot less more dogs, and the majority of the carousels, except for the third carousel, are pretty consistent. So it's a lot less variance overall. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's great. I feel like honestly, a lot of the carousel changes were pretty much brushed over by a majority of the player base,
Yeah.
and overall they are very small changes. I feel like, but it does push towards the MO right of the set, which is just less forcing and more flex play, which I think is overall very good for TFT as a game.
Yeah.
And yeah, as for my own personal experience,
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I feel like getting items is a little bit harder consistently, but it also leads to much more creativity within the games.
Yeah, personally, I think that definitely a good change for me because a lot of the times last set you would just like maybe you're like super low in health and you're like trying to you're just inting right in order to get carousel priority, and then you can't really predict or like play around the fact that you just get more dog, dude. But like I guess with these carousel changes, it's like it's more predictable and it lets the higher skill players, right? It lets them play around the fact that they can usually guarantee the item that they want, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree.
personally, I think it's just like it lets higher skill players like express themselves, because there's less variance and it's more predictable. So you can have a better game plan and like think more ahead on what you want to do in like early game, mid game, late game, right?
Yeah.
All right. What are your thoughts on leveling changes, right? So like they increased the experience levels for like what level 6, 7, 8, 9, and it's basically stops the fast 8, right, at 4-3. And yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, from what I've noticed, I guess at least in the early to mid game, it really doesn't change much. There's a lot of people that still level on 2-1, 2-2, and 2-3.
Yeah.
And then there's also people that pre-level on 2-3,
Yeah.
or people that stay low leveled for slow rolling. So yeah, overall, I feel like the early to mid game really isn't affected too much. It just depends on which units you hit. Obviously, if you have Cultist opening, you're going to push levels because you're going to streak.
Yeah.
But as for mid game, yeah, around stage 3, I notice 3-2 level 6 timing is pretty common still in my games. I feel like you'll be bleeding out if you don't hit that same tempo as the rest of the lobby. And then level 7 on 3-5 is very rare in my opinion. It's about 1 out of 10 games and only done by extreme streakers. Yeah, and like you said, fast 8 at 4-3 is completely dead. But luckily, 4-5 is the optimal timing to go 8 now, I feel.
Yeah, and I think I definitely agree with you. Like I definitely see like the early levels, especially that all the pre-leveling to level 5 at 2-3. I see all of that still. That hasn't changed much, but it's just when you get to the mid and late game, like I think for me personally, a new conundrum that I have now is that leveling from level 8 to 9, right? Like I think what Mortdog said they wanted to do was that you can't go 9 every single game anymore, right? Because you're only level 9 if you're like strong enough to go to level 9. Otherwise, you just bleed out because it's like 80 experience to level 9, and that's a lot of gold you have to save up. So I think that it's definitely an interesting change how you definitely have to think more about how like if you want to go to level 9, because before you could consistently get to level 9. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I agree. This really goes back to what I was talking about in different outs, right? Where slow rolling on 8 with 50 gold versus pushing 9 after a long streak through stage around 6-2 or even 7-1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think for now, as people start to build better boards, it's interesting to think about really because better boards mean more stabilization, but it also means that your opponents will be punishing you harder. So with that being said, I think that these two outs will continue to coexist within the game unless some major changes are pushed through by the developers.
Yeah, for sure. And it ties around the strength of 5-cost units, right? Like if these 5-cost units are really strong, then I guess people are probably going to value leveling to 9 more, right? But if they're not as strong, they're like, okay, this set is not going to spike me as hard as just like rolling it down, right? Like they're going to just stay at level 8 and just roll it down, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Alright, let's talk about these new items that they added from set 3 to set 4. So, first off, the one to talk about gotta be Sunfire, right? It's pretty OP, right? What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. I think that right now the frequency and damage are way too high. And honestly, if you can slam Sunfire after stage 1, then you
You just
basically guarantee at least above 80 HP for
yeah, you just win
two
streak
pros.
so hard, right? Because this item is broken, bro. Like it's just like an early slam and it just like carries you through and it's just healing reduction and just it's just superior to Morello too because I feel like not as many what's the one Morello user like Morgana? That's about it.
Yeah, I think Morgana and Sejuani are the only two
Yeah.
that can really use it that effectively, that scale to late game. So yeah, I definitely think that Sunfire, splashable on any tank, carries you through the early and mid game is just really strong right now. So definitely foresee some nerfs in terms of the duration or
Yeah.
damage.
Yeah, for sure. Me too. Like it's just a overall pretty solid item. Like you stick it on any tank, it just does a lot of damage. Anyways, moving on. What are your thoughts on Gargoyle Stormplate?
Yeah, so when I was playing on the public beta environment, it
Yeah.
was really strong on day 1, and then I
Mm-hmm.
remember it gradually getting nerfed, right?
Yeah.
And now, honestly, I wouldn't build it unless I had to fulfill my last tank slot off of stage 5 Carousel. I feel like it's kind of a bait now. It
Yeah.
takes up a super valuable chain. So yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of it.
Yeah, me too. I know it was like super OP on PB. I haven't played too much PB actually, but I heard that it was really OP, but now it's just like I know they added it in order to what buff cloak, but it's not like a super great item. Like I don't like go for it. You know what I mean? I'd rather have Sunfire, dude. I'd rather have
Yeah,
Sunfire and then QSS, right? Or my carry probably.
yeah,
So
definitely. And then speaking of new items,
yeah.
I'd like to talk about the different spatulas. So in
Mm-hmm.
specific, Dusk Spat, Elder Spat, and Vanguard Spat have really been on the radar for some of the top meta comps. So
Yeah.
yeah, how do you feel about Dusk Spat, especially in the context of Riven comps?
I mean, Dustbat is just like I feel like it's solid because you can basically add in an extra unit, right? Because you usually have what a Dusk chosen. Like if you're lucky, you'll have like a Riven chosen, but usually you have like a Vayne or Thresh Dusk chosen, and it's already two going towards six Dusk. So if you add a Dustbat, then you can just add in like any unit, any strong like 5 cost unit like Azir, like just like Jin, and you just dust them, and it lets you get to that six Dusk so much faster, and it's such a huge spike. So Dustbat, and like with the addition that Riven Dusk is like the best comp right now, right? So I think it's a solid. It's like really good right now.
Yeah, and I think this really just speaks to how strong the Dusk trait actually is.
Yeah.
Because adding ability power to any unit is obviously just really strong in terms of
Yeah.
if they have a very strong ultimate.
Yeah, especially for like Riven, right? Which makes it so just makes Riven so strong.
Yeah, definitely. And then how do you feel about Elderwood Spat? Because I feel like it's been probably the second most popular spatula option in this set so far.
Yeah, Elderwood set. I've definitely used that spatula when I play like what Elderwood Ash, but like I've also like played it when I started playing six mage. It's like I've seen Scar like he Elderwood spatted Annie to make three Elderwood, and it's a pretty good combination. I feel like it's just like a lot of stats honestly, and definitely like Elderwood set is really strong, but I think I've mainly just seen it in Brawler Ash comps. Like that's the majority. How about you? Have you seen it in like other ones or what?
I have the same experience as you. Yeah, I've seen it mainly splash for 3 Elderwoods
Yeah.
and then a slow transition to 6 Elderwoods in the late game. And it's most common on, set or work. But I think a
Yeah.
really interesting conundrum is say you slam, or say you get it around stage 5 Carousel,
Yeah.
whether to put it on work immediately or to greed for a set 2 that will almost guaranteed win you the game, even against comps that are usually favored against Ash.
Yeah. I've actually had a game like this morning actually where I just slammed it on Warwick, right? But only had a Warwick once. So I already had another Warwick on bench, so I actually managed to get I was hard win streaking. So I managed to get set off Carousel, which is a high roll. And I just sold my Warwick and I put the Elderwood spat on set, but that's just because it was lucky and I only had like a set. I only had a Warwick once, so I was like, but yeah, I think it's definitely stronger on set if you can if you don't have a Warwick two to sell it off. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And then yeah, Vanguard Spat is the last one I wanted to talk about. And honestly, it might raise some eyebrows because you might be wondering
Yeah.
what comp it goes into. But it's actually really strong on the new Ari Vanguard Mystic comp
Okay.
because you're trying to run 4 Vanguard and 4 Mystic as your level 8 core. But unfortunately, this involves running some useless unit like Hecarim.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you're able to, Vanguarding Cassiopeia, Shen,
Okay.
Zed, those are really strong options because it lets you run an actual unit in spot that's supposed to be occupied by Hecarim.
Yeah, personally, I haven't played too much of the new Ari comp, but that definitely sounds good to me. I mean, the other way, other comp you would use Vanguard Spads were just like Bonky Kong, right? But it's not. I feel like it's not super required because you usually have like a Vanguard chosen.
Yeah, definitely. So I think Vanguard Spat, if the Ari comp continues to be popular in high elo, it'll definitely be more contested, whether it appears on stage 5 carousel or elsewise.
All right, let's move on now. How about what are your thoughts on these shop changes? Consecutive shops will not repeat unbought champions.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not too big of a fan of these changes just because I feel like it makes the game extremely linear.
Yeah.
For example, in stage 2, I've seen a lot of players just straight up not buy anything aside from TF, Elise, and Pike,
Yeah.
which is pretty hilarious to see.
Cultist.
So yeah, I'm not too big of a fan of them. I kind of wish that they revert them just because I feel like it goes against the overall MO of this set, which is not being able to force.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're good at playing the reroll, right? Like basically if you're good at rerolling fast and efficiently and not missing units, then it eventually leads to being able to force comp even better, which I think is very ironic based on what the developers were saying.
Yeah, that is true. I know like people are like it's a pretty controversial change. That's all I'll say. But for me, I'm like okay with it. I just play to like I just play in order like early game, right? You just if you're looking towards a specific comp already early game, you just don't buy anything. But it definitely does just restrict you to this like this idea. If you want a hard force comp, it makes it a lot easier, right? But personally, I'm like all right with it. Like I don't lean too strongly into one side or the other.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it'll be really interesting if they release any data regarding the changes between comps that are forced from stage 2 versus last set, right? Because of course, if the internal data lines up with more flexible play, then I'm pretty sure it won't be going anywhere. So it'll be interesting to see in the next few patches.
Yeah, all right. How about let's talk about the comps right now and the overall meta. You think this meta is healthy right now or like it's just like really bad or like what are your overall thoughts on this initial set 4 meta release?
Yeah, I gotta say honestly, props to the developers because I think that this first patch has been really balanced overall and actually very naturally evolving over the first few days. Like I remember day 1, you saw everyone spamming Enlightened Talon, and now it's basically dropped off the face of the earth, except for Goobums, who's pretty high up on the NA ladder.
Yeah.
And then throughout the first week, we saw a lot of Dusk and Cultist Riven.
Yeah.
And then we saw Brawler Ash to counter that, along with Enlightened Talon.
And then the rise of Ari, right?
Yeah, over the last few days, a lot of Chinese players have been boosting their accounts with Vanguard Mystic Ari, which is supposedly a counter to Brawler.
I definitely agree. I feel like this meta is pretty good because, like, especially with the addition of Chosen, right? Like, you can carry like a lot of stuff because Chosen just adds extra stats, gives you an instant 2-star, and just overall makes the meta really versatile, you know. And I definitely think the meta is in a pretty healthy spot. Aside from the fact that like Riven is a little overtuned. Sunfire is a little OP, but that's an item problem. But it's just probably like Riven in my opinion. What do you think? Do you think anything is just like too strong right now, other than Riven? Or too weak?
Personally, I think that maybe the Dusk trait needs to be looked at a little bit. But otherwise, specific unit wise, I think all of them are pretty much in line with what Riot wants.
Yeah. I definitely think it's an overall pretty healthy, like aside from like what Dusk Riven being Like overall, it's pretty good. Like I gotta give props to the Bride's Balance team as well. So yeah. All right, let's talk about more of the individual comps. Let's talk more about like okay, we already kind of talked about Dusk Cultist Riven as being the best comp, but do you have any more comments to add about it, or should we go on?
Yeah, we talked about so all the comps that we talked about are pretty much the eco style of comps. So Dusk Cultist Riven is basically the sum sins of this set. There are a
Yeah.
ton of transitions, but the most common is just Cultist right now because it's the
Yeah.
strongest early game. But you can transition from like Sharpshooter with Jinx holding Riven items, or Keepers with Kennen holding Riven items. So I think that's really cool. Brawler Ash, pretty standard. Just pick up all the
Yeah.
brawlers and abuse the new shop mechanic to not think about any of the other units. Vanguard Mystic Ari, a little bit harder, I'd say, just because Vanguards are overall pretty weak right now. So it takes a lot of finesse to be able to know when exactly you want to put your 4 Vanguards in versus keeping a more strong frontline like Cultist. And now that we covered all the econ comps, I want to give a rundown of some reroll comps that we've seen on our ladder climb.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of reroll comps. First off, there's like what? Carry Zed, Spirit Zed. I haven't played it myself, so I actually haven't played it at all. But I've definitely seen people play it on ladder, and it does pretty well. It's just what like RFC, Rage Blade, QSS maybe. Have you played it?
Yeah, I played it a little bit on the PBE, but I actually feel like this comp is really interesting and should be on everyone's radar because I feel like it does really well into pretty much all the strong eco comps right now. Because backline access is super valuable, whether it be through like Zed, Katarina, or even Akali.
Yeah, and I know you can just like level 8, you can just stick in like a cane or something, and just like it just kind of it just does so much damage and so much healing. It's what 4 Spirit, 4 Shade, and it's definitely a great comp if you just get ahead and snowball with it.
Yeah, if you're able to hit, I think it's a testament to how strong Shade is as a trait, just from the damage, aggro drop, and basically everything that made Shaco frustrated in set 3.
Yeah. And then there's what? 4 to 6 sharpshooters. Personally, I've only played the 6 sharpshooter variant. I just run like all the sharpshooters plus a chosen sharpshooter, and then it's just what like a Vanguard frontline, Aatrox Sedge, and it's a pretty solid comp, honestly. Like it's not like super contested, so if you manage to get the 3-star Jinx, in my opinion, it's a pretty solid comp.
Yeah, I agree. I ran into Socks and Riot Green Tees playing a lot of sharpshooters on the ladder, and I'm pretty sure it's hypothesized to have a positive matchup in Riven because Jinx can permanently stun lock her. And then I've also seen it played. I've seen it played with Aatrox Sejuani package basically, and I've also seen it played with Keepers as a front line. So I definitely think there's a few variations that are still unsolved for sharpshooters. And I'm pretty excited to see it because it's really fun to play and watch all the bullets just ricochet and AoE the team down.
Yeah, and it just like destroys the backline too. Like the ricochet is just like if they have any sort of backline, they just get deleted. But yeah, how about Cat Warlords? I've played a bit of Cat Warlords. It's like I don't feel any type of way that much about it, honestly. It's just like it's a good comp. It's not a bad comp, but it's just there, dude, in my opinion. What about you?
Yeah, I'm really in the same boat as you. I would only really pursue it if I had perfect Katarina items like Gunblade, QSS, and Hodge.
Yeah.
But, I do see if some of the other comps are tuned a little, I see it being really strong because backline access, like I was saying earlier, is very strong right now against the current best comps in the meta. And then I feel like Katarina is really criminally underrated, actually.
Yeah.
I feel like she does a ton of damage and is way more consistent than she was in set 1, despite the map being a little bigger. So, yeah, I see the meta kind of shifting towards more Zed, Akali, and Katarina-focused comps if carries like Ari and Riven are touched.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think if you can 3-star Katarina, she definitely does some damage. But like, and if you have like a good Warlord start, and yeah, if you manage to 3-star her, but like that's a lot of like of these comps, honestly. Like 3-star Drinks, 3-star Zed, 3-star Cat. Like if you just 3-star it, it's like a pretty. I wouldn't say it's a guaranteed win, but it's a guarantee like what, almost like a top 4, unless you super low on HP.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And then speaking of backline access, pretty similar to comp to Cat Warlords is the Banana Moonlight reroll, which
Yeah.
involves Chosen Moonlight.
Yeah, I actually have not played this comp at all, but I've definitely seen it. I've definitely seen it played. You just 3-star Diana, 3-star Lysandra, and Diana just jumps in, becomes a 4-star, and just deletes the backline, right?
Yeah, I saw St. Vicious playing it a few times in my games, and essentially what you want to do is stack Diana with Titans and Gunblade +1.
Yeah.
And then, backline access is pretty much the name of the game. You usually run 6 Sins with Chosen Moonlight.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, pretty strong into the meta comps if you can get it rolling. But I wouldn't really suggest playing it every game unless you can consistently get a Diana Chosen Moonlight by stage 2.
Yeah, a lot of these comps is just like Zed, you need a Chosen Zed. Diana reroll, you need what, a chosen Diana, and then like another comp we're gonna talk about right now is what, Baki Kong, you need like a chosen Wukong or Garen, right? And it's just
so
like
what's really cool
yeah
is that a lot of the comps that involve reroll strategies, they can all get top 4s or even firsts.
Yeah.
But it really requires a specific chosen, which I think was the intention of the developers with every comp. But that's generally why we see stuff like Brawler Ash, Dusk Riven, or Vanguard Mystic Ari being played a lot more often than these comps, just because consistently over 20 games or so, there'll be more opportunities to play them.
Yeah, same with what, Yasuo Duelist. What are your thoughts on Yasuo Duelist? I've tried it out a couple times, but it's just like alright to me. It doesn't feel like it's super strong in my opinion.
Yeah, it really feels like it's the same vein of Bonky Kong, right? So it's really strong in the mid game, especially if you hit your 3-star 1 cost, whether it be Wukong or Yasuo.
Mm-hmm.
But then I feel like it actually requires 3-starring another one of the key champs to really be a top 1. So I've actually found Janna to be a really core piece in both comps, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And then a 3-star Callista is really strong in Yasuo Duelist to really propel you to late game.
Yeah, or like another out is just like being able to, like, if you high roll, right? Let's say you high roll and you 3-star your Yasuo or your Wukong really fast, and you just like fast 8 or fast 9 or like get there as fast as you can and just run like strong legendary units, right? Like just add in a random set or something like that. Or like, I know Yasuo you need a Yone, and it's just like if you can stack Yone, 2-star Yone, it's just really strong.
Yeah, definitely. I think that really is cool to see because it kind of speaks again to the different outs that the game has right now, whether it be going for that 3-star Callista or 3-star Janna, or pushing 9 even and going for a 2-star Yone, 2-star Set, or any other splashable legendary. Both are completely valid outs. I think that's really cool to see.
All right, now that we've gone through most of these comps, how do you think this meta might evolve? Like, I know there's no B patch this week, so we have one more week of this patch. Do you think it's just gonna stay around the same, or like, do you think maybe a new comp will come up, or like, what are your thoughts?
I definitely see Riven being played equal amounts, if not more, because I feel like it has a pretty solid matchup into Vanguard Mystic Ari.
Yeah.
Just because Riven is so mobile on the map and has a really easy time dodging the Ari bombs.
Yeah.
Other than that, I've actually seen less Brawler Ashes in my lobbies.
Mm-hmm.
Probably because of the precedence of Vanguard Mystic Ari.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's so contested that people just get tired of playing the Ash Lottery at 7 or 8.
Yeah. I mean, I think it'll be like, maybe I think the Ari comp coming up was definitely an evolution of the meta, and then this next week it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. I think Riven's gonna be there. Like, you're just gonna see everything, honestly. Like, I don't think I can predict anything right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
What are your?
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask. What were we gonna say, dude? Like, I was just gonna go to the next topic about the next patches, changes expected.
Yeah, overall, I just see maybe a few more sharpshooters just because of the precedence of Riven.
Yeah.
But overall, as people discover how strong the Spirit Ari comp is, probably played more because I feel like right now it's pretty much a high elo only thing. There haven't been many guides at all published on it. So it's kind of just figured out by the word of mouth or seeing it in your own games perform.
Yeah.
So we'll slowly see that trickle down to lower elos. But overall, not many changes. I agree with you.
All right. So next patch, do you think? I mean, I think we both agree that there's gonna be dusk nerfs, right? But do you foresee anything else happening?
Right now, I would say honestly the game is in a very balanced state except
Yeah,
for
I
Dust
agree.
Ribbon.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the one comp that I could see being touched is mages actually,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's almost never correct to play them anymore.
Yeah, I
Now
agree.
that Elderwood and mages have been basically nerfed so hard, and also the meta has been discovered,
Yeah.
which definitely does not favor them. So yeah, I see
Yeah.
some mage buffs, but I think Riot has to be very careful with them because being able to double dip in terms of if they provide too little of a nerf to the spell power while also allowing for double cast, I feel like it could get out of hand really fast.
Yeah, I would like to see some mage buffs too, because like I had a period where like I got two firsts in a row with six mage, and I was like, all right, I'm six mage every single game, and it didn't really turn out too well. So it's like I feel like if you have a good start, like if you high roll a good opener, it's all right, but like, it's pretty good I think. But like it's definitely not a comp where you just be like, I'm a 4-6 mage every single game. I've tried that, it doesn't work. All right. And then our last topic is just carousel starts. So, what are your thoughts on these? What do you think is the best carousel start right now, Tommy?
Personally, I think that it's chain just because
Yeah,
it's so flexible, but it also builds in the Sunfire.
yeah, that's true. It's just mainly Sunfire because Sunfire is such high priority right now, right? And it can go into what GA. Um, what else?
Like Frozen Heart and Brimble Vest are always decent tank items too.
I feel like Frozen Heart. I haven't really seen that item out a lot. It's not like I feel like Frozen Heart's not that good right now.
Yeah, I'd say it's probably just the most useful because it gets rid of a tier. Which getting
Yeah.
into
Oh yeah,
that,
that's true.
yeah, I think tier is pretty bad right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Even in the context of forcing Ari comps, because usually it requires a blue buff, right?
Yeah.
But I find that tier is almost never contested, so I'm always starting chain or rod.
Yeah, tier is just bad because like last set, right? There's a lot of champions where it's like Cassiopeia, like Teemo utilizes two tiers really well. Like a lot of these blue buff users, right? You kind of needed that, and
Yeah,
now it's like you don't really need tiers in anyone, right? Unless you're like, going what like six mage for the Veigar or whatever. But like a lot of these carries, like I guess you could blue buff Riven, right? But no one really requires tier, so it's just
yeah,
not a good start anymore. Definitely went down in priority.
yeah. I think that's really testament to another thing that the developers wanted was they didn't want
Yeah.
any over reliance on a certain item like Teemo
Yeah.
and Cassiopeia, and even
Yeah.
Victor to a degree relied on blue buff last set. So they
Yeah, I
don't really want
remember hearing
any
about
blue
that
buff
too.
abusers.
Yeah, I definitely remember hearing about that too, and I think it's a pretty good change, honestly. Like
Yeah, I agree.
I don't like the idea that like a champion needs an item in order to like be a champion, you know?
Yeah, or even a more extreme example would be like
Yeah.
Blender Nocturne from set 2.
Oh
Right?
yeah.
People were just straight up winning the game from stage 1 if they got a spatula off
Yeah.
of good ping or fast clicking. So yeah, I think that is a really good change overall. But I would like to see both tier and cloak,
Yeah.
the items themselves buffed a little, because I feel like both of them kind of fall in the same category, right? Of
Yeah.
not having many good slams, and then also just not really having any champ that specifically relies on one of their items.
Yeah, let's talk about Cloak a little more. So I know they wanted to buff Cloak, right, by adding in Stoneplate, but evidently it just hasn't worked, right? Like, what's the only good? Like, I feel like Zephyr isn't even like seen as much anymore, and like the only good item is what QSS that's like required with a Cloak, right, or maybe Spark.
Yeah, so I think Cloak is kind of ironic, right? Because,
Yeah.
like you said, Zephyr really isn't that prevalent anymore, just because
Mhm.
QSS is so high value. And then Spark has been good since like the start of TFT pretty much, so that's a given. But it's only one item out of everything you can make with Cloak.
Yeah.
So I think that success of Cloak will really rely on how good Gargoyle is, because on the PBE, right, it's
Yeah.
very strong. And Cloak is in a good spot.
Yeah.
And nowadays, all you really want from Cloak is QSS or Spark, and then you pick up a completed Elderwood spot. So yeah, I don't think Cloak is in too good of a spot at all.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Let's talk about the more like the other item starts. So there's what like bow. Personally, I think bow is pretty good, right? Because like in my opinion, you can flex it a lot. Like you can flex it with Wukong chosen if you get it. You can flex it with like a Zed carry. They both need RFC, and then you can also flex Ash with it, right? Because you need GS and Rageblade, but also it could be sharpshooters because they need Rageblade too. So I feel like it's pretty flexible in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think really the only comp in the meta right now that can't use it is the Ari comp, and
Yeah.
even then, so they really don't. You really don't mind slamming a Xerath or a Shiv even.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the best aspect of Bow is the fact that a lot of the items can be slammed and still be flexible. So whether you choose between Winsu, Giant Slayer, or
Yeah.
Shiv even, you can still remain flexible throughout the game up to 4-1.
All right. What about Glove? I haven't really started Glove, so you're gonna have to talk to me about this one.
Yeah, so I think really Glove is in the same spot as set 3.5, right? It's a pretty consistent option for flexible play. It doesn't really have the most slammable items per se, but I never really mind slamming an IE or Thieves Gloves. And it also allows you to scale in the mid game if you're planning to play for pick priority rather than HP. Because I feel like Glove really build like all the items it builds into, whether it be Haj or Arcane Gauntlet.
Jewel Gauntlet, yeah.
Yeah,
Jewel Gauntlet is definitely a good item, and then it could also just be QSS, which is really pretty high priority for carries, especially against Aatrox, right? So I think it's a pretty good item for now.
Yeah, and then let's see. The only ones we didn't cover so far are Belt and BF Sword. So for BF, I think it's pretty ironic because day one of the meta, it was super contested. Like all 8 players just rushed to the BF because of Enlightened Talent.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I feel like it's actually kind of fallen out of favor on the first carousel.
Yeah, I think. I think I agree because like BF Talon, that was what BT, IE, all these sword items, and now it's just like, I mean, it's still a pretty good start, I feel, but definitely not as strong as before because you can still make what GS, it could be GA. I mean, I feel like it's not like terrible, but it's not like as definitely. I agree, it's not as high priority as it was before, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely agree. Pretty much, I equate it similar to Glove, except it has a small amount of consistent options that you can slam.
And then there's what, Rod and Belt?
Yeah. So we touched upon Rod a little bit with the Spark discussion. But overall, I think that it's probably the second best item to start right now, just because so many of the AP comps, whether it be Riven or Ari, rely on some type of Rod item. So I feel like even though the items aren't necessarily the most slammable, it is a very good scaling pick in terms of being able to make solid items in the mid game.
Yeah, it could be like what, Rageblade, or like I feel like Rabadon's is not as good as anymore, but like it could always be like a Gunblade as well, which I'd say Gunblade's pretty flexible. It could go on the Riven, it could go on what, like any like maybe Set.
Yeah,
it's a pretty flexible item.
A lot of the frontliners like Set, Cassiopeia, Aatrox, Sejuani can also use Rod items too. So overall, I really like starting Rod when Chain's not available.
Got it.
Especially based on playing Ari a lot too. Requires a lot of Rods.
Yeah.
And then last up we have Belt. So I think you can speak to this a little bit better because you played a lot of Star Guardian and Protectors during set 3. 5. So
I definitely So there's no more Protectors anymore, and Protectors, they use Belts really well because you can just make Warmogs and it heals up while you have a shield. But now Warmogs is not as good of an item because it's just like there's no Protectors anymore, and also Morello is not as high priority anymore, right? Because last set there were so many Morello users that like needed Morellos, right? But now Sunfire is just a better item, right?
Yeah, definitely. I'm the same page as you. I don't think I've started Belt a single time in any of my games, Diamond. And I think overall right now it's just best used for completing strong items like Sunfire and Redemption.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't want to take it as my first component at all.
Yeah, definitely. It's just like one belt's fine for like what, Sunfire, but if you get like 2 or if you get more, like you can make a Warmogs, but it's not like, definitely not an ideal item in my opinion. I mean, it's okay on Nunu, right? It's pretty good on Nunu because you can get more HP, but other than that, I wouldn't really start Belt.
Yeah, and then I think one interesting thing of note about
Yeah.
Warmogs is just I would never want to slam it, but if I was playing Brawler's Ash and had a set,
Yeah.
attaching Warmogs to him actually lets him ult twice before he goes into the sit-up mode.
Yeah.
So that's just really something to think about during stage 5, but I think that really speaks to how little value Belt is in the early game right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Well, anyways, that's all we have to talk about for today. Is there any like closing thoughts you want to say, Tommy, or?
Yeah, overall, I thought that TFT's developers did a really great job with this first patch, and I've had a lot of fun playing so far for this first week. So all I can say is really keep up the good work, more.
Yeah, good work, more. I definitely had a lot of fun too, just playing set 4, and it's just nice having something fresh compared to set 3. You know, like new champions. Even like I like the aesthetic too of Fates overall. So, anyways, thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Yeah, see you next week for our next podcast.